Hey everybody, welcome back to another video from Movies and TVs on the Ball, and my name is Steve, your host,
And I'm Jay.
and we are finally going. So Jay and I have been doing. We did years ago both the first two Mortal Kombat movies,
Right.
and I was kind of thinking we were like looking at my vast collection and one of the films I promised you guys on the YouTube channel on a video that I was going to take a look at Street Fighters, mainly because of it's my first Jean-Claude Van Damme film, and it's also last year was the 30th anniversary of the film in 1994. This film came out, I think, the year before Mortal Kombat did.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
that's kind of why we kind of did it. I guess Jay, did you like? I know we're more Mortal Kombat fans, but
Right.
Did you ever play Street Fighters
Just
as an
a tiny
arcade?
bit, not a whole lot. So I'm not super familiar with the characters or the story or
I remember Roku and Bison. I do remember the Capcom
yeah, Capcom.
X-Men game
Right.
versus X-Men game. So I knew characters, and Blanca, the green one,
Yeah.
was kind of the only ones who I knew about. This and so I kind of knew about, and then I think Chun Li I knew a little
Right.
bit about too. I think Bison was sort of the main figure in the sort of Street Fighters lore.
Right. Yeah, he's sort of like their antagonist. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I guess this one was in 1994. It was starred I guess you could say like this film really sort of there's not surprisingly calling it Street Fighter, there's not a lot of street fighting in the movie. I mean, and not to the very end at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had I guess we can go the director was Stephen E. DeSanza, who is best known for he's directed films such as he's the screenwriter for 48 Hours. He was the screenwriter for Running Man. He was the screenwriter for Die Hard and Die Hard 2. So, and he was also the screenwriter for The Flintstones. So
Oh, okay.
we might be covering that. That also came out in 1994 as well. And he also wrote this film and Judge Dredd.
Okay,
So he's
gotcha.
kind of done a lot um, of films in or kind of these sort of because this Street Fighter films feels like I feel like it's a matinee movie.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
something like I feel like if I was it came out in 94, so I was probably oh let's see 24 2004 I was 6 years old. So being
Right.
6 years old, I probably would have kind of, I probably feel like this movie would be great. Now looking at it, I don't, I would be, it's kind of, it's still fun, but it's not as fun, but it's not as fun as, and I think maybe it's not as fun as Power Rangers, but I think because I'm such attached to Power Rangers,
Right.
it's kind of not as, I think I have more of a feel for it. This one I feel like it's fun, and I think Raul Julia really I do have to say Raul Julia playing M Bison really puts his all into this
No, he
movie.
carried the
He
movie.
carried the movie, but he didn't like
Ooh,
half-ass it, you
right.
know. Um, what did you think of and this is our first Jean-Claude Van Damme film. And I did you ever watch any Jean-Claude Van Damme
Yeah, I
film?
watched a couple of.
What's your thoughts on him as
I guess this was not his peak performance.
But I feel like there's so many characters that it's kind of he tried his best but
Right.
failed miserably.
Right.
Lesson is never try. No, I mean, I think he did I liked him. I just don't see him as Guile because I think Guile was sort of the all-American
Yeah,
fighter.
yeah, he did. Yeah, I don't forget to, and I really wish they'd let him grow out his hair so
Yeah,
at
it
the
kind of
end
had
he
that
could.
spiked
Yeah,
hair
because it's sort
kind
of
of
like
thing.
just I did enjoy how like throughout the movie each character sort of transformed more and more into
To
their own
their own
video game.
video game kind of
Yeah.
characters. Then you had, I think, in the and I guess let's go through the characters first, so
Okay.
that way we will go through the plot. Um, the I did like, and then Chun Li is played by Ming Yang, and her voice is familiar because she was the voice of Mulan
Okay.
in the night in the 1998 Disney film.
Gotcha.
And then you had Kylie Minogue, and she plays
Cammy.
Cammy. And I don't know if I think and in the movie she's more of Guile's kind of right hand girl kind of thing,
Yeah,
or
because I
second
remember
in
like they're
command or
known
something.
for like U.S. military people
Military
in the game.
people. Well, yeah, yeah. Oh, they are in the game.
Yeah.
And then you had Ryu, played by Brian Mann. Brian Mann is best known for his films in Sniper 3, and he was in the Dwayne Rock Johnson movie Skyscraper. So
Okay.
he's kind of, I think I think this feels more like a Jean Claude Van Damme movie.
Yeah. So yeah, he was sort of like their star power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Raw Julia. And I think Raw Julia, his kids were fans of the Street Fighter video game.
Gotcha.
And so they got him to do it. There's something to do with
He did such a good job.
job.
Yeah.
And then you had Mi Young Lin. She plays Chun Li,
Right.
and she's the voice of Mulan.
Right.
That
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So, Miguel Ne Ne Miguel A. Nzinze Jr. plays DJ, and his face looks familiar because he was in Joanna Man.
Okay.
And have you heard of Joanna Man?
No, I have not.
It's basically this Dennis Rodman type kind of basketball player ends up getting
Right.
kicked out of the NBA. So
Okay.
he ends up going into the WNBA, disguising himself as a woman to join the WNBA.
Okay.
I think it's an interesting plot, but I own it. We'll take a look at it later on. But I was like, yeah, that face looks familiar. Then you had, I guess that's pretty much the cast for the most part. Let's kind of get into it. So you had, yeah, Ming, uh, Chun Li
Chun-Li.
is a news reporter in this. So
Right.
they're never really their characters are always never really what they are exactly are in the comic book or in the
Video
video
game.
game. But I like how they kind of evolve at the end of it.
Right.
You had you had so basically there's a island, or is it a it's a Asian country like in China. It's like on the side of China that Bison sort of runs.
Yeah, it's taken over and he's taken a bunch of people hostage.
Messages, yeah.
And sort of like the
And then
inner world, the United Nations, but if they're I forget the like Allied Nations, I think,
Allied Nations,
is
yeah,
led by Giles.
by Guile, and Guile is John Claude Van Damme, and he basically they're rescuing the hostages. They're trying to rescue the hostages,
Right.
and what I like about it is she's doing the news report, and she's like, Guile, can you say a couple words? I only have one, and he grabs the mic, and
Right.
he's like, I only have one word for that bastard Bison, and I love how Raw Julia's face just like goes.
Just like every scene,
He's
he's like so
he
expressive.
he's so expressive, and I think he doesn't half-ass it in this movie. He gives him 100%.
Yeah.
And I like Jean Claude Van Damme in this
I
film.
did.
Well, I mean, I liked that he tried his best. I mean, I like for me who doesn't really know that much about Street Fighter. I
Uh,
thought he's an okay cartoon version of
yeah.
Guile. So anyway, he is so I kind of think that this film they don't really sort of give the characters exactly what they want, what their actual
Backstory.
backstory
Yeah,
are from the game, but you kind of get like he's rescuing his friend Charlie, and um,
he gets experimented
and
on.
Charlie gets experimented on, and I like how in the movie they pretty much don't really um, say what he's gonna be, and then you find out that he's ended up becoming. Let's just spoil it.
Yeah,
He's Blanca,
right.
but he's not really. He looks kind of like a
Lou
Lou
Ferrigno
Ferrigno,
with
Incredible
the
Hulk
wig.
with a really red wig. Um, I like then you had Ryu play. It's more of Ryu and
Ken,
Ken, and Ryu
who I was sort of thinking of like the actual main
here.
characters from the game.
Yeah, Ryu is played by uh I think Ryu is played by Byron Mann, who is pretty much I think this was his like this is where you know him, but he was in Skyscraper with
Okay.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. But I kind of he looked pretty good. He kind of reminded me of a guy who played Kino in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Yeah,
2. And then you had who was the um Ken was it who was the one that he's with?
Ken.
Ken. Okay, Ken is played by Damien Chapa, who was in this movie, but he was also in U.S. SEAL 2. A lot of these guys, I think really they probably gave most of the budget to the casting cost to Raw Julia and
Jean Claude Van
Jean-Claude
Damme.
Van Damme.
Yeah,
But I kind of like them, and they're basically in. They go to Taiwan.
it was sort of
It's
that
kind of
you did say
they go to like yeah they go to a
it's
place
like a made up.
and made up city and basically there's who's the guy with the eye patch?
I can't remember names. It's something like criminal guy. I can't remember if he's an actual fighter in the game.
Uh,
Maybe
let's see.
it was him and Vega. Sort of they
Vega
like sort of run the little criminal underground.
ground and Vega. What I like about Vega is like Anarch, and everyone's like a huge fan of Vega,
Uh,
and um, they're kind of in this cage fight, and Vega like he's completely buffed, and he's got the claws and he's got that look, and I love how he takes off his mask and he looks like a male model.
right.
Um, he is played by. Let's see. He is played by. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But he's like this really like, and so he's like no weapons, and he just and this girl brings this like sword, and he takes the sword and he feels the blade, and he's
Right.
like no weapons, and he's like everyone's cheering, and then, like they barely have time to fight when all of a sudden
Jean Claude Van Damme,
no, his name's Guile.
Guile,
Guile breaks in and
arrest everybody.
arrests everybody, and then they take him into prison.
Right.
And Vega's pretty much what's the guy with the
Eye patch. I can't remember, but sort of a criminal boss man.
yeah, and he's sort of like his right hand man.
Right.
Um,
And
and,
then in prison, Giles talks to Ken and Ryu to Sco be their sort of moles inside of Bison's crew.
by his crew, yeah,
They sort of stage an escape.
yeah, they stage an escape, and I like how you know, let's just finish the plot and then we'll kind of go into our thoughts. So they ended up going, they imprison, um, basically all he's because he says everyone's under arrest,
Right.
so they've imprisoned Gaio and Rhea and Vega and the champion or who's the one with the eye patch.
Oh, we don't know. I can't remember his name.
Anyway, so they imprison him, and they're all at one. They're at uh, chow time,
Right.
and they're eating, and both everybody leaves their table. Um, Ryu,
No, it is Ryu.
Ryu, and
Yeah.
Kin's table, and that's when there's a fight that breaks out
Yeah.
with
Vega and the eye patch guy.
Vega and the
Yeah.
eye patch guy
Want to continue the fight from
from
the underground fighting ring, whatever they're doing.
yeah, and uh,
Sagat.
Sagat is the eye patch guy.
Okay.
That's who he is. So anyway, and he's kind of the so they end up having a fight, or they continue their fight, and then they basically try to break themselves out of jail or out of the prison that Guile has been
Right.
that's he's been operating, and
Yeah. So sort of Giles has a deal with Ken and Ryu to be his sort of moles
moles in the
in Bison's
in
lair.
Bison's lair, or Bison.
Right.
So they send Guile and not Guile, Ryu and
Ken.
Ken to
I guess they sort of lead the breakout, and then and during the breakout they sort of shoot Giles, and that sort of makes them get
they
trusted by Saga.
Saget,
Yeah.
yeah, and they fake shoot him, and he ends up sort of going to uh, so they get into
The like secret underground layer.
secret underground layer, and this is where we see sort of like um let's so they go to the layer, and Ryu and Ken are at the layer.
Right. And sort of during this whole time, sort of Chun Li is on a
Is
team with
with
the
his camera with her camera
camera crew,
crew,
who's the
who
sumo
is
wrestler
sumo
and the
wrestler
boxer
and the
guy,
boxer guy, and
and they get captured
they get captured by
by
Bison, and then Bison uses Bison gets Chun Li. He wants Chun Li to be his wife, or is kind or a prisoner, but sort
yeah,
of he makes her dress in the Chun Li outfit and get kind of her hair like that.
right.
And so I think they're trying. I like how they're easing their like winking at it, like this is kind of what you want in the
Yeah, I think that is one thing this movie did a very good job on.
yeah
Was sort of like the transition the characters from just like normal rich
people.
people into like their video game
Yeah,
stars.
yeah, and then so they're torturing his cameraman named who is the cameraman?
I think is
The
Honda
Sumo
E
Honda
Honda.
E Honda,
Yeah,
and um, it's this guy's whipping, um,
right.
and
Him.
he can't feel he can feel the pain, but he doesn't show
He's
any.
tough.
He's tough, and the boxer guy sees him and says, "How does this make you feel?" It's like, I just have to do the pain thing, and then they're meanwhile you've got Doctor
Stretch Armstrong.
Stretch Armstrong,
I can't remember his name except he turns into the stretch guy.
Stretch guy. So,
Are you talking about like how he's like doing his the
he's
experiments
doing
on?
the experiment on uh, Charlie,
Right,
who's gonna be Blanca,
right,
and that's kind of the mystery. I mean, unless you don't know the comic or you don't know the thing, that's the mystery character I think in the movie, pretty much. For the kind of ending, the final battle
right.
scene, and then you had so he's working on, and I like how I do like the scene where Charlie is getting zonked out by all these like pictures of
Sort
war
of
and
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love how Bison says it's merely educational filming. Like he's so deadpan on it,
Right.
and it works. And then so you have Giles sort of want to rescue his friend who turns into Blanca,
Right.
and then you've got uh,
We hear that M. Bison killed Chun Li's father,
yeah,
and then
because
has a really good line about
he says for you it was no, for you it was the worst day of your life. For me, it was Tuesday.
right,
Yeah, and I did like that kind of, and I think in the video game there's that relation. I think there's a relationship between not a not a romantic relationship, but there's some sort of connection between Bison and Chun Li.
okay.
I think Bison shows up in there's the Street Fighter movie called Legend of Chun Li.
There's more Street Fighter
There's
movies.
like one Street Fighter movie called Street
Okay,
Fighter Legend with Kristen Kirk from Smallville. She played Lana Lang.
okay,
Um, but I think there's something to do with that. So they kind of made kind of an appearance in that film or in this movie. Um, what do you think of? I guess so that then you had Guile getting to their base,
right.
and
He gets fired first.
he gets fired first, and he said because you had the snooty, um, uh, snooty
European,
military
yeah,
European military guy who's like, Guile, you, and he's like, we should all go home, but I am going to go and kick Bison's ass. And everyone's cheers. I mean, it works. I like this, and I did like the fact that Bice the Guile takes a boat and his troops to rescue the hostages
right.
from Bison. But I like how Bison has like kind of like a
Video game
video
defense.
game defense, but he's got like a joystick and a couple buttons, and I like just kind of that nod to it.
Right.
Um, so he rescues um Bison so they get to
His secret underground
his
lair.
lair, and and they kind of split up, and we kind of see where each of them fight. It's like sort of that, kind of same thing we saw with X-Men Kitty Pryde.
Right.
One character fights another character for 5 minutes, another character fights another character for 5 minutes.
Right.
And that's kind of what I saw with this. And I did like how so they end up kind of getting there, and then you had Colonel Guile shows up, and he gets all the other Street Fighter characters to watch Guile and Bison fight.
Right.
Is that where we're at?
Yeah, it's sort of like that. Sort of starts happening,
The-
and sort of they fight while everything else goes on around them. Sort of.
And then we see like I love how Bison has like this I talked about the cape, but he also has like the rocket boots
Right.
and
I think it's magnetic.
magnetic boots, I think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I liked how they had the magnetic boots, and I liked how he, had the thing, had the
I like how like there's like no way he could like turn up, turn up the dial of like sort of zaniness and craziness, but
yes,
then he
he
does.
does, yeah. So they fight, and what do you think of the fight between him and? I mean, I think it's kind of ridiculous, but it's
It
like
is
that
ridiculous,
fun
but
ridiculous.
yeah,
I mean, I think, I have to, had I, this kind of film I think because I never saw this movie when it came out, or, I saw it the first time, I kind of can look at but zaniness of it. But I could, if I can turn my brain like the way I look at it with Power Rangers or something, I could say, "Oh, this was fun,"
Right.
or that was a fun fight. So they fight, um, and I think they fight, and he has these rocket boots, and he like zooms in, and then of course you see Jean Claude Van Damme or Guile do a psychic,
Uh-huh.
flip kick, and he kicks them all the way into the TV screens.
Right.
Um, I mean, and then they try to rescue the hostages while everything is blowing up,
Right.
and then that's kind of how it ends.
Right. And then they have a cool sort of montage where everyone together and they sort of like are pretty much in their final video
Video
game
game
form.
form,
They
yeah,
all
yeah,
do like a pose.
yeah, and like you kind of think like how like in Super Mario Brothers, the movie, there's that scene where Daisy shows up. She's like, guys, you gotta come. There's no sequel bait.
Right. There was a tiny bit because remember because they had who's the green guy?
Blanca.
Blanca and then the stretchy doctor guy sort of like we're not gonna go like sort of like what
Yeah,
happens to them. So there is sort of like maybe
they
like them
could have done
flop.
a sequel,
Right.
but I think the box office didn't do
Right.
as hot as they wanted to do.
I'm just mad because they have sort of like they don't know there's a big explosion. They don't know if Giles lives. He should have come back with like the hairstyle. Like
Yeah,
they should have put on a wig.
yeah, but John Claude probably like, "Hey, not good to do
I
that."
know. Like if
Um,
he had put on, that would have made the movie, a couple points. Like just that ending alone would have made it better.
yeah, I like this movie for what I think I look at it as a fan of the video, as a fan of the film, as a fan of Jean Claude Van Damme. I think it's a pretty decent film.
Have you not seen like Bloodsport?
No, Bloodsport's better,
Okay,
but
so you're
like,
saying this is like your first Jean Claude.
no,
Okay.
this is my probably first Jean Claude Van Damme film I own.
Oh, gotcha.
That's kind of where I was
What
going.
about the Expendables? You said.
Well, Expendables 2, I guess. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, um, I did kind of like how, I mean, this was his first film I own that he's leading man,
Okay.
I guess,
Gotcha.
well, whatever. But I feel like this would have been a great matinee film. If I was 8 years old, and I think there's probably a lot of people who probably saw this in '94 and were like, "Oh, this movie's great," and now I'll probably look back at it and kind of go, "Ah, it wasn't as great as I thought it was gonna be."
Right.
So I guess what we could say is I would have to say, on looking at it now, I'd give it a in my range from 1 to 10 being kind of. I'd probably give it a on a 1 to 10 scale, probably a 5, maybe a 6.
Yeah, same. But I'd almost rewatch it just to see like Bison again.
Bison again. I think Raw Julia made this film work because I think you could see that he actually didn't phone it in, and I think he put passion behind it,
Yeah.
And this was his last role too. So,
Okay.
and it was kind of a nice thing he gave his kids. But I would probably say that was probably Street Fighters. I love Jay, do you think that this movie would you have liked to have seen a sequel to it if I guess if you would have saw it back in '94, would you have liked to have seen a sequel, or do you think this movie doesn't need a you think it stands pretty good on its
I
own?
think it stands pretty good alone. I guess I wouldn't want to see a sequel today, but I would take a sequel like a '90s sequel.
Like a '90s sequel, yeah, that's what I was
But I
saying.
wouldn't want like a CGI
You know,
whatever. Like give me the weird props they
I
have.
wished we saw what I'd like to have seen in this movie is I know we kind of saw it in like the cage fight, like a fight. But we never really saw any like street fighting.
They had a couple little nods where the camera
Yeah,
moved so like it was like a 2D plane,
yeah,
but it wasn't a whole lot like you
yeah,
get with the Mortal Kombat movies.
yeah. That was good. I feel like this would be a great double feature with Mortal Kombat for a '90s
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, so that's Street Fighter. As we said, on a on a 90s nostalgia, we probably give it an 8. On a film, probably a 5. But that's our look at Street Fighters. I guess our next video, we're finally gonna get into
Yeah,
uh
we gotta do John Wick
John Wick
four.
4
Yeah,
because Ballerina's out and we've been promising, but it's 2 hours. It's
it's
almost
almost
three
3 hours long.
long. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. We swear. But as always, I'm Steve,
I'm Jay.
and see you at the movies and game on. As always, if there's anything you want us to cover, please let us know in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe. Peace.